Hey guys, I'm live. I just wanted to go live and talk about I'm gonna get that. I wanted to talk about the uh, the Amber Guyger case, and I wanted to talk about her sentencing. And to be really upfront with all of you, I've been exhausted all week. I've been nonstop, and so part of it has been that the reason I haven't come on sooner is because of that. Because I've been trying to come on. Hey, I've been trying to come on sooner and get on to talk about this sentencing, because I think it's a very important topic, and I think it's a very important subject. Hi, Sandy, to discuss, because I think that there has been, especially with the sentencing portion, and of course, the hug, right? Everybody's talking about the hug, the brother who gave her the hug. And I think that's important too. So what I wanted to talk about was just the idea of her getting 10 years for Cruise Boston. Good to see you. I always say hi. I always stop and say hi to my mods, because she is a rock star. Okay. Thank you, Cruise Boston. I'm glad you're here. So yeah, and if you remember the other night, Cynthia, stop. Evie, good to see you. I saw you. I saw you last night on. Was it last night or the night before? On. I keep wanting to call her Mommy Dearest, but Mommy. I can't think of her. You know who I mean. She's fabulous. Anyway, so sometimes I'll drop in and listen on other channels, even if I don't want to necessarily interrupt. But she was talking about this new Chris Watts book or something. I don't understand, because I read 30 pages of something, but I was like, what is that? So I don't know. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about, thank you, Mommy Ramblings. She's fantastic. I just love her. So can't say enough nice things about her. I really enjoy Tracy. Good to see you. And I really, okay. Amber Guyger. I was to say Amber. Let's see. Yes, brought me to tears. Curious your thoughts. Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts about Amber Guyger, and I let's see. Okay, he spoke more. I'm trying to get what. Let me just take a second here, everybody. Let me. Oh, there it is. My glasses. I wanted to just see what Heather said. Well, this was in the victim impact statement. Let me see. Heather just said, "I know nothing about the story except for the hug. I did see the video. Don't know what to think. He spoke more of his love for her than his murdered brother. Yes, he did. In that moment." Hi, Dawn. Okay, yeah, I know, Mommy's great. So, okay, so here was my take on it. I had said the other night that on my first broadcast about this, people were saying, well, what do you think she's going to get? And I said 10 years. She'll get 10 years. And people were like, oh, just that? And I had friends of mine saying, she's going to get 25 years. And I said, no, she's going to get 10. And one of the things I want to say about her sentencing that I think is really important to cover here is that we have to remember that in Texas, and I don't really know why they do this or what have you, but it really goes to the jury to vote on the sentencing, right? Well, they vote, right? And they voted guilty for murder. Now, here's something. This is the part I wanted to say. Okay, my brain was just not coming together real quickly there. In Texas, you can be found guilty of manslaughter or murder, and you can still get 5 years to all the way up to life for both of them. So the actual charging of the crime, it doesn't make that big a difference, because one of the things that happens is that whether you get, charged with manslaughter or you get charged with murder, both of them start with 5-year sentences. So in Texas, it's kind of like, I remember, because I was looking at the law, I guess it was like a week and a half ago, and it's really funny because that's something that Duty Ron has really kind of made me do more and more, is really try to look up some statutes or look up the laws in a different state. So different states have these different laws, right? So hi, Tremaine, good to see some of you. I'll come around in a minute and say hi to people. But one of the things that I think is important about this case is that the jury is the jury was sitting there, and I don't know if you saw, there was an interview between two jurors. It was a female and a male, a black woman and a white guy, and they were talking about the idea of giving her 10 years. And it was very interesting because both of them had a very similar point of view about, they sat through the whole thing. I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's a couple things going on with Amber that I'm gonna hit tonight. One of the things is that obviously her case is, for the Black community, they were looking at it as a historic. Are they giving more fairness now to Black victims, right? And then there was this other thing that's going on with Amber, and this case is that it's a police shooting, so that's even heavier. Then there's the case. And it's funny because somebody said, you only talked, I get these notes, you only talked negatively about Amber. And I was like, it's hard because no matter what I'm focusing on, it's kind of like, if I focus on this angle, then these folks over here are going to be like, you didn't say this. So what I'm going to try to do in this conversation is just kind of move the camera around a little so that I'm really showing you my sense that Amber got 10 years. And one of the things I saw in Amber, and whether or not you believe her isn't really the issue, it's whether or not the people sitting on the jury believe her, right? Because at the end of the day, I have to trust that those 12 citizens sitting there were really looking at and experiencing who she was and who the family was and who Botham Jean was. And we all felt, and I know I felt the other night, very, very sad about his loss. And then when it gets to the actual sentencing, I felt it would be 10 years. And I felt, from the jury perspective, when they were sharing about it, they said they really felt that she had tremendous remorse. But remember, and this was interesting because the woman of the two jurors, she said the important part is, and I think that this is something everybody's missing, she was found guilty of murder. And she even said, we didn't charge her with manslaughter. We charged her with murder. Now, whether they gave her murder or manslaughter, it still would have started at a 5-year sentencing up to 25 and life and beyond. But the reason that becomes important in her world, and this was interesting because she said, I felt that the charge of murder was heavy enough. In other words, it wasn't manslaughter, it wasn't second degree. It was like, this is first degree. This was like, but in Texas, murder can hold that, that sentencing, like I said, from 5 years on up. So how do I feel about the sentencing, and how do you feel about the sentencing? Well, I can sit here and say it should have been 25. I can sit here and say it should have been this, it should have been that. But I don't know how many crimes I've watched where I've seen like these guys who kill their wives and they get 5 years. And it's like, what? Who's charging these people? But on the other hand, I mean, obviously we're talking about true stuff here, right? So we're talking about the real world. And one of the things we're doing is we're having a conversation about it. Should it have been 25? I don't know, because I'm going to say something that may sound another thing that I think is, I'm going to come over to people in a second. Another thing that I think could be somewhat controversial is the idea that, I really think her life was already ruined, in the sense that the moment she did that, right, we know it was ruined. But there's another piece to this, which was her whole life she wanted to be a law enforcement officer. She will never, ever be able to do anything like that again. In that sense, she's scarred, And I think one of the things that we all have to look at too is, who do people become? Are they getting better? And I think that, and of course, and I'm just going to go over here because Tammy said it, for me, 10 years isn't long enough, for murder. Well, you know what? I'm going to say something to you that I thought too, is that there are thousands of cases every day that are tried. And some of these people get 5 years for murder. I think the issue was, this was a very high profile case. And I think if you look outside the courtroom, they're looking at this as, this is either going to show that the criminal justice system is fair or it's not. I don't know. I think it's kind of it's a tough thing, because you know what, I'm always going to defer to the people that were in the room who saw it. You know, I can sit here energetically and tell you, and one of the things, and just so you guys know, one of the things that I think happens for me is that being on the outside of it, and not in, like, while I was watching it, my feelings, I don't know about you, but like my emotions were going bing, 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 because you can't really, I can't really process it in the moment, because one minute I'm going, she needs to get life and never come out, and the next minute I'm going, oh God, what a horrible, horrible tragedy. The next minute I'm going, oh my God, I'm so sad about Botham being murdered. I mean, so my emotions were all over the gamut, and I started to feel that one of the things that the juror said, which I thought was really beautiful, she said, I really had to think about what Botham Jean would want. And that just gave me truth bumps when I heard that, because I thought, you know, and then the guy sitting next to her, when the two jurors were talking about the findings, he said that was the biggest thing. And he said there was no question to any of us that this was murder. There was just no question. We all knew it was murder. But considering this defendant, and we considered this this victim, and we had to look at who this victim was, and yes, the tragedy of it, but also what would he want? And that's something very interesting, because I think in many ways what that says to me is that Botham Jean came to life. He was a real person in that court. And I think for me, you know, if we really look at it, like step back and look at it from a, you know, just from an esoteric, just an energetic point of view, you know, because so many people see justice is never going to be fair. But, you know, I wonder, because it was the first time to me, and this is going to sound odd, I don't know about you guys, but it was the first time that the victim and who he was, he really came across. He really came through I feel like right over all of the noise of Amber's crying, and the family, and the outside, the Black Lives Matter movement, saying how important this was, and all of the other things that were kind of, in a sense, hanging on the moment with this trial. For me, and again, and I've said this before, I'm a white person. I don't really know what, let me put it this way. I can, because I'm intuitive, I can kind of step into maybe the person of color point of view, but you know what? I'm kind of out of my league in that sense, because it's really not my place. But what I do feel is that I felt that Botham Jean came to life. And I think that was really cool. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Tracy. He was there. I'm telling you, Tracy, thank you, everyone. I feel that Botham was there in the courtroom. I'm getting truth bumps. When you just said that, Tracy, I was like, he was so much there in that courtroom. And I really felt his presence there. And I felt that the younger brother really typified for me. And it wasn't so much his forgiveness, it was the level of beauty that this man who was murdered in his own home, who he was. And, you know, again, I'm getting truth bumps. I got truth bumps, you guys. And, you know, and I know that there's a whole thing, and please forgive me, because there's a whole thing about, you know, about the Black community. And that's a righteous conversation. I'm just having the one about how beautiful, it was just how beautiful that he was there. And I really feel, you know, I've never had this happen. Like, what a lovely, and the reason I'm saying I haven't had this happen is because energetically, he was such a lovely human. You know, he could have, and seriously, you guys, I mean, you know, for me, it was just like, I really just saw him as a young man in his home who was gunned down by a law enforcement official. And it was a complete, like I was shocked. And I'm going to tell you, I felt a lot of righteousness about it. And then I also thought, you know, here we go again. Can you give a thumbs up if you actually can hear me? If not, I'm going to go out and come back. Okay, you can hear me. But here we go again with chat being off. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have this conversation, and then I'm gonna go out and come back so we can talk, because I really like having the interaction with you guys and your thoughts. And actually, maybe let's see. I'm gonna look at some of the conversation, and then I'm gonna just. He was a great kid, Rudy. That's and it was pure grace. And I think that, and I want to say this because I'm getting truth bumps, and I think this is super important, you guys. Who was Botham to us? Who was he? And we really got to know him. Truth. What I'm going to do, and I'm going to have to do this because I think I've got a very unstable connection. I am going to restart my computer, and I'll come back. I will be back in a couple minutes. I hope you'll be around. See you in a few.